Hey, everybody. Welcome to Modern Day Debate. Tonight we're debating whether or not the Ark has been found, and we are starting right now. With the yes sides opening, thanks so much for being with us. Otangelo, the floor is all yours. You can screen share when you're ready, Otangelo.
Yeah. Ready to go? Okay, was Noah's flood a real event or just an ancient myth? Today, we know of hundreds of flood stories from every culture in every corner of the globe. One of the most stunning evidences that Noah's Ark is real history is coded into the Chinese language. The Chinese word for large ship is composed of three other words, 8 persons boat. What we know about mitochondrial DNA of humans fits the 7,000-year timescale and explains the 3 haplogroups. Genetic studies have confirmed the recent ancestry of humans, which is evidence that we all descend from Adam, Eve, and Noah's family. All humans are 99% identical in their genetic makeup. By comparing the mitochondrial DNA of 147 people from 5 different ethnic groups, researchers have found that all the individuals analyzed were descendants of the same female lineage. That is, they all had the same original mother. Thus, they confirmed that all humanity descends from the same woman who was the first Homo sapiens, and they called her mitochondrial Eve. We also have geological evidence of Noah's flood. The pre-flood geographical environment was drastically different than after the flood. Axel Heiberg Island and Ellesmere Island in the Canadian Arctic have been discovered to harbor the remains of a vast array of prehistoric animals and vegetation. Recently, giant camels have been found up in the north. There is evidence that there was a vast forest. In 2017, news reported the secular science community has no viable answers to explain remarkable finds like these.
Yeah, Otangelo, I hate to interrupt, but just to be sure we're on the same page, that tonight's debate was for whether or not the Ark was found. This seems more like a case for the flood having happened. Just to be sure we're on the same page. Are you given you only have 6 minutes per person, this might be a good time to quickly launch in with the last couple of minutes you have into the evidence for the Ark per se having been found.
Well, I can just put the last few slides and then give the word to Philip, okay?
Yes.
So they did find chickpeas on the floor of the wooden structure on Mount Ararat, which I think are the remains of Noah's Ark. In 2008, Parachute, a Kurdish mountaineering expert, did find on Mount Ararat a wooden structure that I became aware of in 2010. In 2009, NAMI, a Chinese-Turkish team, made a movie of the large wood structure under ice that Parachute discovered on the elevation of 4,200 meters above sea level. It became a major controversy, with Ark searchers claiming that the finding was a fraud. Then in April last year, I met Philip Williams on Facebook, and he is the first American that did visit the structure in 2014. After a long investigation and conversation with Philip, I came to the conclusion that this finding is most likely Noah's Ark. And noteworthy is what Randall Randall Junker, a PhD professor of archaeology and history in antiquity, said about the finding. I think this discovery could be very important. I had not paid much attention to it before. Indeed, was skeptical. But since I have been looking into it more, studying the images and talking to a number of people involved, including 2 people I know and trust, who have actually been on the site, I am convinced it is not a recent fraud or fake. It has been up there for some time. So it is a legitimate archaeological site. As such, it deserves careful study if possible.
We'll kick it over to Philip for his 6 minutes as well. Thanks very much. Philip, the floor is all yours.
Okay, very well. Let me see if I can switch this to my, yeah. And then there we go. Oh, first of all, I need to tell everybody that this is not, this is the Durham site that was on the picture which you saw coming. This was created in a 1948 earthquake. If you drive up a road a little ways, you'll see similar geological formation. This is not Noah's Ark. Now, the good thing about this, it's got the attention of the government of Turkey, that there's a lot of interest in Noah's Ark in the site. So now,
One thing, just to be sure that I
yes,
think that the audience won't be able to, like I mentioned, if we use the screen option that you chose, it's so pixelated that the audience can't read, or at least I can't read any of the text. So you'd have to read any of the text that is on screen out loud for the audience, just to be sure you know that.
okay, let me try a share screen then. Let's see where we go. And all right. Good.
I think it's okay if we go with that. It's just that, you'd have to.
All right. Well, that would be better. Great, thank you. All right. Yeah. Let me move back. Get rid of that now. Okay. Now, yeah. Well, here's one reason why that site cannot be Noah's Ark.
But just to be sure, that we can't see I don't think we can see a presentation anymore. It's just mountains.
Just mountains, right? There's just mountains, right? And you don't see some text on the mountain.
No, not on my side at least. I just see I think it's like the background. Oh, okay, now we see some text.
Well, I need to move this where you can. Is that? Let's get this right here. Let's see. So you can't see the. Let me see what we're. Oh yeah. We're seeing everything. I think. Yeah. I'm seeing it on the.
I see. You've switched into normal share screen. Okay, let me adjust the screen for that, because I have to adjust it when you switch back and forth.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we're ready for you now.
Okay. When you read the context of it, it says in Genesis 8:4-5, on the 17th day of the month, the ark came to rest on the mountain of Ararat. The waters continue to recede until the 10th month, and on the first days, the tops of the mountains become visible. So therefore, the landing site of the ark, if it's the same, if it fits the biblical description, it has to be towering above the surrounding mountains. Here's a picture that I actually taken here with an archaeological official. As you can see, we're looking over the mountains. In fact, this is the one tiny place on the large Earth's surface that would correspond to the resting place of Noah's Ark that's in the Bible. And this is a picture that I took. I took the picture of the mountain on the very day that I visited in 2014. So it's up on the mountain, just like you would depict from the biblical description. And of course, these photos was from my visit. You see in the upper right-hand visit, that actually picture, I did not take that, but it was at the same site. You see the back wall has a black coating on it. The inside timbers, of course, were not exposed to the water. They did not need that black substance or pitch. You see my hand on one of these pegs. There seem to be, the boards are put together with these square wooden pegs spaced at about 18 inches. Now, of course, this was in November 2014 when I visited it. Now, this, of course, was the same site that was announced in 2010. There you see Professor Belly, all these people I know. That's the head of NAMI there. Panda Lee was the first one, a non-mountain person to actually visit it. And there's the crew on the left, the young lady there in the red jacket. She's the genius behind this project, or part of Noah's Ark. She's actually a science reporter for public television in Hong Kong. A lot of people know about the controversy. It was claimed to be a fraud. My involvement is because I had a reason to go to NAMI's defense because of the archaeological evidence that I was seeing from what they were presenting. And just to let you know, the archaeologists, even when from the initial announcement, they were stunned at the evidence that were being reported because they were used to these ark. Well, the ark's been found again and again and again. But here's one where they were actually seeing evidence. But NAMI was a media organization, and they didn't understand the business of archaeologists. I immediately saw archaeological involvement with this discovery, and people have got a fraud. All these ark searchers, I know several of them, they don't want archaeological involvement. But you need to know that this team, from the very beginning, wanted the archaeological involvement. They did not know how to do it. In fact, the ASOR is the name is actually the same name. This is one of the most prestigious archaeological organizations in the world, especially regarding the ancient Near East, where this site exists. And so an official from ASOR actually went with me to the site. And then I have actually met the people of the mountain who have been, protecting the site for centuries. And of course, we're not a bunch of Indiana Jones type of ark searchers. We work with the authorities, with the Turkish Ministry of Culture. We work with, there's been several archaeological conferences associated with. People want to know, well, what's the delay on this? Well, one thing is that archaeology everywhere in the world depends on private funding, and this needs to be done privately just to maintain. And then the archaeologists, you need to know, they publish before they announce. Now, I'm not an archaeologist. I very much respect the archaeologists, and we want them involved. So I have a little bit more freedom to talk about this. Here's a few of the pictures that NAMI published, but you see they're very, very interesting. If they actually look like what you might expect an ark to look like, so different from the other things that have been claimed. Now, but here's something though. If this is Noah's Ark and it's up here on this high mountain, that means that the historical sciences have to be profoundly mistaken. Now, in my work, coming from a scientist, I expect, every innovation I did, the current theory was wrong. So that's the way science advances, by testing falsifiability, not by confirming what it already knows, because that's what it knows is generally keeping it back from advancing. Now, here's a classic picture of the ark, and I want you to look at those people that are drowned. Now, this is something that the creationists have neglected. How about the people that were drowned by the flood? And of course, you're talking about people. You're not talking about geology, like you mostly hear associated with this with the flood. but you need archaeological context. So that's been my work for a long time. In fact, when I was retired back in 1990, I went to work searching for. I was a system scientist. I worked with complex systems, and I realized you can be looking into evidence and not recognize what you're actually looking at. But I thought, well, if there was a flood, these four things happened. One, people disappeared from the earth about sometime during the third millennium, if the biblical date of the flood is correct. Then we should see another secondary migration or worldwide migration. Then, yeah, okay. Then well, four things. I'll just to let you know, determined that most of the prehistorical burials were actually here's where you see something, or actually evidence of flood. And then I traced this back, the book I published in 2010. And then if this is matching the arc, what I traced, and we've got to find here. And this is the recent book I wrote to help the archaeologists understand the archaeology of the site. Just to let you know, there's three narratives. This is the mainstream narrative that you will know how the man began as a hunter-gatherer, and then of course there's agriculture began in the Fertile Crescent after the Ice Age, and then this is not my narrative, the flood narrative, which is you're more familiar with. It's mostly a fish killing flood, and
I've got just because we have that 12 minutes for the openings total, I do have to kick us over just because.
Okay. I will stop right here.
We're able to go out of the share screen, and then I can switch it back over to the main screen.
Okay.
But want to say, folks, first time here at Modern Data, want to say welcome, and we hope you're welcome no matter what walk of life you are from, whether you be Christian, atheist, you name it. We are glad that you are here. And we're going to do a couple of housekeeping things. As you can see on the bottom right of your screen, Creation versus atheism. We'll be debating Leo live and in person at DebateCon 4. This is our fourth conference. You don't want to miss it. Let me just adjust my audio. I know I'm just bouncing all over the place. Sorry, guys. You don't want to miss it. This is going to be a huge debate. You can find the tickets for that event Saturday, November 4th in Dallas, Texas, in the description box. So check out the description box right now for those tickets, as well as we have crowdfund, which you can see on the right side of the screen, in order to raise funds for this coming conference. You don't want to miss it. Check out the link for the crowdfund in the description box as well. With that, we're going to come over to Mike and Amber. Thanks so much for being with us. The floor is all yours.
What do you want, Amber? Me first or you first?
I can go first if you either or.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no worries.
All right. Okay, so to demonstrate that this is the real ark, we first need to establish that there was a real ark. If there was no biblical flood, then even if this turns out to be a 4,000-year-old boat, and that would be a remarkable find to be sure, it couldn't be Noah's Ark. We also need to consider whether Noah actually existed. If no Noah, once again, we just have a really old boat at best. But in fairness, if we can rule out this wreck of a ship on the basis of what's there, then we don't need to dive deep into the religious flotsam of floods and fictional figures. So let's start there. What are we looking at? There are dozens of supposed real Noah's Arks in the world. Like religions, they can't all be true, but they can all be false. So which one are we looking at today? For the purposes of my pre-written opening, I'm assuming we're discussing the same ark as the last time Philip and Otangelo argued this case. The NAMI site, that would be Noah's Ark Ministry International, or the movie sets built by Amit Artogral and Associates for a Chinese film. The sets were made from wood, weren't connected to any structure or really anything more than facades, and have since been swept away by the glacier they were built into. We know all that because the people who built the sets were angry Amit lied to them about the purpose of the construction, so brought Dr. Don Patton, a creationist geologist who had been working with NAMI until he discovered other fraud in the organization, to the site where they themselves had carried the wood and built the sets, and gave him samples of the wood they used, which, predictably, is modern. Of course, Philip has stated he's visited the site himself in 2014 with an unnamed archaeological official. Yet to date, no peer-reviewed papers from Philip, nor this official, nor any other archaeologist I can find have been published. Philip promised Jordan and RJ 2 years ago on this very channel that papers would be published the next year. What excuses will he have for us this time? He has published a slideshow of his visit, though, where you can see the glacier in the process of reclaiming the sets, as well as get a look at some of the lumber used in the construction, which, as Philip himself points out, and I quote, it looks almost like modern timber. And as Otangelo notes, you can see the marks of the machining. Given that the people who built these sets have admitted as much, and the sets have since been destroyed by glacial action, a very curious coincidence if this had been the real Ark, surviving all these years just to be swept away by a glacier just after being discovered. How can we possibly demonstrate that this is a real ancient boat? How can we demonstrate that this place has the actual Ark and not the Darupanar site or some other location? What about Mount Judy, the site early Christian, Muslim, and Armenian tradition all say was the place the Ark came to rest? The Nami site is on Agradagi, which Sale writes did not gain popularity until the late 8th century, which is about when people started assuming Genesis 8 saying the mountains of Ararat meant one big mountain and started calling the tallest peak in the area by that moniker. But let's say our esteemed interlocutors do manage to demonstrate the veracity of this volatile vessel. Most of their work is still ahead of them. The next hurdle they must clear is, was this Noah's ship? Do the dimensions match the Bible's description? Is there evidence of every kind of animal having been there? Did the examination of the remains reveal how a crew of only 8 managed to care for thousands of animals at minimum for nearly a year? Not to put too fine a point on it, where did they put the poop? And where are the bones of the kangaroos, penguins, and New World monkeys who perished on the long trek back to their native habitats from the Ark's landing spot? Maybe a 600-year-old man with magic DNA really did build a huge boat that was bigger on the inside to fit all of the animals and had indoor plumbing, food replicators, and divine ventilation to keep them all alive. But then there's the flood that made building the boat in the first place necessary. Perhaps Lyle was correct when he wrote it must have been so gentle a catastrophe that it left no trace. But there's evidence against it. The Egyptians, the Chinese, the Native Americans, the Sub-Saharan empires, and the Pacific Islanders, just to name a few, kept on doing what they were doing right through the period the flood was said to have happened. And not only did they fail to drown, nobody even saw fit to make a note of it. And so we have no reason to accept this or any site as the legendary Ark. Because if the flood is a fish story and the man is an allegory, then it should be quite surprising to find the ship alone anchored in rock-solid reality. None of this is to diminish the fact the burden of proof rests with our opponents, only to establish that these are some of the barriers that need to be overcome. On that note, I'd like to get a few questions for the discussion phase of this debate onto the table. How do we demonstrate that this site is even a ship? How do we show that it was Noah's instead of, say, Gilgamesh's? How do we rule out other possibilities like the Darupanar site or Mount Judy? What are the falsification criteria that would convince you that this isn't Noah's Ark? That'll do for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mark, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank Ember, Otangelo, and Philip for being here. Thank you, James, for hosting, and thanks to Modern Day Debate for putting this on. My presentation was really largely around the Darumpa site. So I'm kind of, I thought my opening was irrelevant, but, you know, I will go into it because I did look at Nami. I just didn't think that anybody would possibly believe that was the actual site of Noah's Ark, considering the circumstances surrounding it. As Ember pointed out, we have to have some kind of falsification criteria. And the fact that NAMI, the Noah's Ark Ministry International, was actually doing a Noah's Ark exhibit at the time in Hong Kong leads a lot of skepticism to why they didn't publish any findings scientifically and why they only did media press releases. This suggests that they were just doing a publicity stunt to draw people to their exhibit that they happened to be doing at the same time. Now, Randall, a man called Randall came forward very, very closely afterwards. Randall Price, sorry, who said that they hired Kurdish workers to haul things up the sea, up to the structure, and sort of whistle blew on Nami. They said that there was too far up, there was too hard to do, but there was other Ararat expeditions that actually did haul materials up, like a 2007 publicity stunt when Greenpeace built a replica of Noah's Ark up on the mountain. So this is entirely possible. They did have some samples from what they claimed to be the site they sent in. However, I do want to point out, and this was an important part of my presentation about the other site, and I guess this applies to the half dozen to dozen sites that have been found in sort of modern history of the Ark, all claiming to be found. Some were hoaxes. The whole point is that it was sent to Andrew Snelling, who usually I severely disagree with, but is actually the foremost geologist in Answers in Genesis and Creation Ministry International. Sorry, David McQueen, but he probably is. He basically said that the samples didn't show the right dates. Only one of the samples had the 4,800 BP for carbon-14 dating. Snelling himself has said that the Ark has not been found. The reason why he cites this is because Mount Ararat in Turkey is a volcanic mountain. So as a sort of proponent of catastrophism, that mountain would have to have been there after the flood or during the flood. So he basically says it won't be found on that mountain because, as he says, it would have been sort of molten at that point. So he actually doesn't think the Ark has been found at all. A lot of these creation places don't think the Ark has been found at all. This particular site, there's a lot of suspicion around it. The lack of scientific integrity, the lack of archaeological expertise sent with them. They no longer update their website to say that it is the Ark. They basically have dropped it completely. They keep saying that they will publish their findings. They never do. So I think there's a certain level of skepticism, especially on the motives of Nami, is definitely warranted. Is there a reason why they would publicize a fake Ark site while running an Ark themed theme park in Hong Kong? Of course there is. Of course there is. It drew so much attention to their theme park. But the problem is that they have not provided in any way we can verify this, or as Ember said, the other half dozen sites that people say. I think it is very important. I was going to mention the same, that Mount Ararat is what they called the mountain after the fact. The biblical text actually says the mountains of Ararat, not Mount Ararat. And that's very important because it could relate to any number of mountains across the bottom of Turkey. So I might leave it there. And I think that sort of the questions are, why didn't Nami actually give the samples to any mainstream scientists? Why did the creationist scientists they gave it to, geologists they gave it to, basically come back with a rejection of those samples? And what exactly leads them to believe that this is the actual Ark rather than some other structure?
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening as well. Before we jump into the open dialogue, want to let you know, folks, first, thanks for your feedback on the audio earlier. And a couple of quick housekeeping things. 100% of tonight's Super Chat donations are going to Worldwide Orphans. They're linked in the description box. They have a great charity watchdog rating. In other words, every time we do a charity stream, we want to make sure that the charity that all of the Super Chats are going to really uses the funds for the reasons that they say they are. So check out their link in the description box and throw in a Super Chat to support the cause. And 2, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. We have many more debates coming up, including, if you look at the bottom right of your screen, David Wood and Aaron Raw collide on whether or not naturalism is true. That's at DebateCon coming up Saturday, November 4th. You don't want to miss it, folks. Tickets are linked in the description box. If you're in the Dallas area, you better be there. It's going to be amazing. So check that out. And we're going to go into the open dialogue. Thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours.
Woohoo. That's really cool to hear about the charity thing. So yeah, people send us lots of questions.
It's nice. Yeah. You want us to the responders? By the way, I answered some of the questions, but I recognize, Mark, that you thought this was about the Durham site, and then some of those, of course, have already answered. But typically, there's in these debates, there's just a whole these debates over the flood been going on for many, many centuries. And so there's a whole list of questions, and they're just all tossed out there. But unless we focus on single issues, we don't get very far in such even in 2-hour debate. So I would rather. I think, wouldn't you agree with that, Ember and Mark and James?
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure what
it's super easy to get sidetracked into the flood, or Noah himself may or may not be relevant tangentially, but yeah, I'm good with staying focused on the arc. And I mean, honestly, I don't think the Nami site's all that good, but if you want to stay focused on that, we sure can.
Well, by the way, I was able to complete it, but as I've sort of moved in, with the archaeologists, we now call this the Mount Ararat discovery, not the Nami site. But on some of these, I'm sorry.
Didn't Nami find it? Like, wasn't it?
No, Nami did not find it. Nami did. Ahmed Ertugrul found it, but this is a site that the people of the mountain have always known about. But on some of these charges that were made, and I'm surprised to see you quoting this Randall Price, a prophecy expert. He's not an archaeologist, and you quote him as an expert. And you would never quote these gentlemen that you mentioned that supposedly debunked it in any other course. And
you mean Randall Price, the archaeologist that Nami hired to verify the site?
He's never been an archaeologist.
According to Nami, he is.
Well, Nami's
the photo of the Nami team includes Don Patton, geologist, David McQueen, geologist, and Randall Price, archaeologist.
Well,
they're labeled that way by Nami.
As scientists, I work with mainstream scientists. I don't work with those. Andrew Snelling's radiocarbon dating. If it dates to the proper date of the 4800 BP, it conflicts with his radiocarbon dating. So it's dated much too. If it's on the exact date.
The problem is methodology, right? The problem is methodology here, because this wasn't like severe questions were brought into the sphere about how this was collected, when was this collected, how they got the samples there, was there any contamination, and those questions don't seem to be answered. That is why you do a peer-reviewed study and show how you got and how you did the sample collection and how you got those samples to the laboratory. But they didn't do any of that. What they did was get the samples that this Turkish guy had collected and then send it off somehow to Snelling. And even then it didn't come back with the expected dates. And Snelling said, hey, and I wouldn't be quoting Snelling under any other circumstance, really, but, he just happens to be one of the main geologists for Creation Ministry. And he agrees that those dates are not correct.
You understand you're not speaking to a creation ministry. I speak the language of mainstream science.
Okay. Well, it's just if anybody had a reason.
Let me ask you this. Yeah, these charges were made. The source of these charges were never identified. They came from an anonymous source and from a rival arc searching team. Now, why would you give on basis on either of those? Why would you give that credibility?
Well, no, it came from Randall Price. He was the senior archaeologist for Arc Search LLC expedition
you know, excuse me, Randall Price would not give the source of those charges.
What do you mean the source? He was working on that particular project. What do you mean? I don't.
Says he would not identify who gave that information that this was a made up site. And in fact, Otangelo did some investigating on that.
Yes, actually, when I hear it in 2010 about that finding of the Ark, first, of course, I was enthusiastic, but then suddenly came up these claims that this was a film movie set. It was staged. It was fake. And I basically dropped and I believed these stories. And then when I met Philip on Facebook and actually started to investigate his story, then that catched again my curiosity. And I wanted to know what actually is the truth about this story. And I actually have two long conversations recorded, one with Tom Patton and the other with Murat Sahin, which is a businessman I don't remember the city nearby Mount Ararat.
Dagobah.
Right. So first I had a 1.5-hour talk to Tom Patton. And he was not able to provide one shred of hard, verifiable evidence of these claims that this was a fake staged movie set on Mount Ararat. He was not able to give me any concrete evidence. And then I talked to Murat Sahin, and he was even worse. It was just hearsay. Oh, I heard it from people, and just vague hearsay stories. So both were unable to back up their stories of the movie set. And I also wrote to Randall Price. He didn't even get back to me. So that's basically from that side of these stories that this was made up. I have not seen any verifiable evidence, pictures, photos of people bringing that wood up to the mountain. The claim was that this was ancient wood from ships at the Black Sea that was brought to Mount Ararat to build up this stage. All these stories, I verified them, and I have not seen evidence which would actually back up these stories. So I am very much up to believe that it is a movie set. If someone is able to actually provide that kind of evidence that would be necessary actually to then believe that this is a movie set. And we are talking not about just one site, but as I understand and heard, that this is a ship which is broken up in two parts. So it's not just one wooden structure, but for what I understood is that it was on the top of Mount Ararat until the 1800 or something like that. Then there was an earthquake, and the structure came down in a crevasse during that earthquake, broke up in two parts, and then remained in two parts on that crevasse. And it seems
just one second, Otangelo, you keep going from point to point to point to point to point. You're gish galloping. Okay, so let us address some of that which you're saying before you go on to yet another point. Okay, so you're saying there's no evidence that it's a movie set. There's no evidence it's the Ark either. That's the problem. Now, this is a guy that was hired and worked consultancy as the leading archaeologist for the place that discovered it. This is the problem you have. Okay, and just because he doesn't get back to you when you sort of question him on it, I wouldn't blame the guy if he just wanted to leave the whole thing behind him, because it's kind of embarrassing being associated with an organization that he claims has, brought all this material up there. So it's kind of strange that on no evidence whatsoever you're prepared to say, hey, it's not a movie site, but on no evidence whatsoever you're prepared to say it's the Ark. I might also add as well that NAMI only had sort of very few photos of it. And they also said, hey, a mysterious force stopped our photo equipment from working, our video equipment from working, kind of thing. All of these things add up to very little evidence for this claim. Why isn't this sort of been submitted as a peer-reviewed article? Why hasn't this been analyzed, kind of thing? And you're sort of saying, hey, it was two structures because of this earthquake. What evidence do you have that this earthquake actually happened? Did that damage make those two break apart? Have you got any evidence of that whatsoever?
Yeah, it's great that you're skeptical of the movie set, but having the same skepticism towards the art claim would be really cool.
Yeah. Let's give a chat. By the way, you've ignored what I said, and that NAMI, admittedly, they're a media organization. They didn't understand archaeology. They made all types of mistakes. They didn't know how to do that. That's why I got involved. And so yes, all that information. But just to let you know, Randall Price was never willing to meet with Parachute or Panda or me. Several Dr. Norm Geisler, who appeared with me on Fox News with this in 2015. They were never willing to be cross-examined or they wouldn't make their charges. They would only make them to other people. What they would not make, they would not agree to meet with us and then make their charges.
I did address that, though. I did address that. Yeah, I did address that. I sort of said maybe he just wanted to leave the whole thing behind him,
thank you.
Because he actually did an official statement on the World of Bible Ministries, like he made his statement about it. And, maybe he did just want to leave it all behind him because, the guy, while I'm not sure his credentials on archaeology, he certainly is involved highly with the ministry and theology, correct?
Right. Exactly. He's involved with end-day prophecy. Yeah. That's his primary. Now he is you might say a biblical scholar, but he's not an archaeologist. The other thing I just want to address, you mentioned in your thing that that Mount Ararat was not recognized as the site. You're bringing up you're bringing up the team, right? When they were NAMI, not knowing, they don't know who's an archaeologist. Randall Price has posed himself as an archaeologist, and so NAMI, the media organization, invited him. But then when he was obviously not an archaeologist and not somebody that Parachute wanted to work with, Parachute kicked him off the team. He was begging to be part of the announcement up to almost the very week the announcement was made. Clara Way, the little girl that I can point, she's got emails from Randall Price begging to be part of that announcement. But Parachute would not allow him, and then he had been raising all this money from his supporters, so he sent an email to his supporters explaining, then given that rumor, he said, "Well, we've heard this," trying to distance himself from it. And then Michael Heiser, who was had a Paleo Bible site, he put that letter on his site. The Christian Science Monitor picked that letter up from Randall Price and published it. And then, of course, that's where that's how the rest of the media picked up the charges of hoax. But a media should not have. They should have discounted that for the fact that the source was anonymous and and it was a rival team. But of course, archaeologists wasn't involved. But let me just mention something again. Do you know the Dead Sea Scrolls were, for the first 10 years, were suspected of being a fraud?
Well, let's not change the subject.
Yeah, that's way off topic.
Yeah, let's address this, because it wasn't only Randall Price, was it? It was also another person, their main geologist on the thing.
This is NAMI's own photo, and there's Patton. Randall Price listed as a geologist, Don Patton as a geologist, and David McQueen. And most notably, this is the so-called wood from the Ark controversy in this picture. That's why Don Patton left the team, because NAMI claimed it was ancient wood and it turned out to be volcanic tuff.
Gentlemen, you know so little about this. I can understand, but let me update you about some of these things. Right? No, that wood was not part of the Ark discovery.
Well, this is their team, right? This is the team that went to find the Ark, kind
It
of
was
thing.
Nami-
This is the team.
Nami's team got caught in a fraud, and Patton left
They
the
did
team.
get caught in the fraud, yeah.
Okay.
So
Listen,
so this is the thing. This is the same site that you're now claiming with no evidence whatsoever that it is in fact the Ark. You're just saying, hey, all of this stuff was handed in. The people that were given the samples, even very, very staunch creationists that were given the samples said, no, this doesn't match up with what we should expect. So it brings us back to a couple of Ember's questions. What would falsify this for you?
well, precisely. That's, in fact, I've developed.
Well, we're asking.
Technology. Okay, to do that. In fact, I'm sorry I wasn't able to finish the presentation. It was just a few more minutes of how I got involved. Why did I go to the defense of this discovery and bring the archaeologists into it?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that's an interesting question, but it's a different question from what Mark asked, which I originally asked, which is, what are the falsification criteria that would convince you this isn't the Ark?
Well, right. Well, there's several things were general, like the mountains of Mount Ararat not being the place of the site until the 8th century. You said, I mean, you've been reading about this and you hear these types of things, but Josephus in the 1st century writes against Alpion that it's located at the highest part of the mountains of Ararat. So that would actually put it exactly where we found it.
Well, the Bible doesn't say Mount Ararat. It says the mountains of
the
Ararat.
Mountains of Ararat. But please, did you not listen to my presentation?
I did listen. Yeah.
Got to be, it's after another 6 weeks, the tops of the surrounding mountains were visible. Now, obviously, if you got some little logic about you, it's got to be at the highest place for the surrounding mountains to be covered. They can't. I mean, if you're there and you can't see a mountaintop, you've got to be higher than all the mountaintops except where your ship landed.
Yeah, so Josephus, I don't really see him as a very... some of his stuff is reliable, some of it isn't. And that's the problem with Josephus. There is stuff that we know that was not written by him, that was made up in his writing. So he isn't the most reliable source ever. He certainly isn't reliable when it comes to the resting place of the Ark. You were just talking about how sort of people wouldn't name their sources, so you don't have any first. Well, Josephus certainly wasn't around when the Ark landed, and he would not, he may talk about stories, but this is kind of if basically it is true what their own people said, Nami's people said that they hauled these things up there, then of course it's going to be reflective of where people say it is, kind of thing. Okay. So yeah. What I'm not hearing from you is any falsification criterion. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire over this one, Philip, because I asked a direct, straightforward, straight up question. What would falsify it? And we've got nothing but, well, Josephus says it's in the right place.
In contradiction to what the Bible says about it, notably.
What? Wait. Yeah. What's in contradiction to what the Bible says about it?
The Bible says the mountains of Ararat. Even if Josephus does say it's the volcano Agradagi, then that's not the same as what the Bible says.
Do I have to repeat this again? The very next verse, when it says it lands at the mountain on the mountains of Ararat, it says it took another 6 weeks for the water to go down, for the tops of the surrounding mountains to be visible. Now that, if you've got some logic about you, that puts it on the top of Mount Ararat. Do you understand the logic?
People don't agree. Other creationists argue that Agradagi is a post-flood volcano.
Wait. How can you be looking down and not see, looking all around and not being able to see the tops of the surrounding mountains without it being at the one?
Well, there's a couple of problems. So first of all, the Bible definitely says a plural. If it were a single mountain, it should say so. The second is that's an active volcano. which means it's been erupting periodically over the past several thousand years, which means today it is much taller than it was thousands of years ago.
Yeah, I think yes, it has grown some. That's why we have all these earthquakes. By the way, the earthquake in 1848 is the historical records are there. No scholar, no one involved, no geologist doubts that there was an earthquake in 1848, and that's when the people in the mountains say that the ark slid down in the glacier, that it was encapsulated, and that's when it broke.
Yeah, do you have a source on that story?
Let me go back. Let me go back now. Listen, I think you've got. You're not an engineer or scientist, but surely you can understand when you're looking around and you can't see the tops of the surrounding mountains. In fact, the water's got to go down for another 6 weeks before you can see the top of the surrounding mountain. Don't you understand that puts it on the top of the highest mountain and there at?
No. I think you're missing what we're saying. So do you follow catastrophism? Is that something you subscribe to?
Oh, mainstream science subscribes to catastrophism nowadays.
No, it doesn't. Mainstream science does not at all.
Have you never heard about the dinosaurs?
Look, I don't want to get distracted. I want to be able to ask my questions here, right? So if catastrophism is true, then the volcanic rock that makes up that particular mountain, Mount Ararat, as it's called today, that would have to have happened after the flood, correct?
Listen, that's what the the creationists like Snelling and them. That's why they've been opposed to this site on the Mount Ararat, because the mountain sits on the top of their flood evidence. The same reason why they want to see the pyramids not built before the flood, because the pyramids sit on top of the flood evidence.
I'm sorry, the pyramids were built before the flood.
Yeah, according to me, yes.
Interesting. Because if the flood destroyed everything, that creates a bit of a problem for there being pyramids from before the flood, or Göbekli Tepe for that matter, which is also in Turkey, not that far from Agradagli.
Yeah. By the way, I just have a few more slides, and if you could see this, you understand. I have a completely different narrative than the creationists have. It is a worldwide flood. It is more like the flood of the Bible. It's exactly like the flood of the Bible, but I am not a young earth creationist, please. Okay. And you're used to, and it's not your fault. You're used to the meaning of that, but I work in mainstream science and mainstream archaeology. In fact, some of the scientists that work on the Dead Sea Scrolls have been working on this project.
Okay. Well,
they're good. They're very good at radiocarbon dating, by the way.
I'm not sure, but you're familiar with tuff and tuffite?
Yeah, you mean volcanic tuff?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you know how tuff forms?
Well, right. That, by the way, that was volcanic tuff that they had there.
Right, exactly. That's my point. Do you know what happens when water hits tuff, like while it's being formed?
Yeah. By the way, I know you're following the arguments that Lyle and them made when they were arguing against.
Well, no, answer the question. It basically becomes mud and then shale, correct?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that means that mountain, while it was forming, was never underwater, right? Or the tuff would not form.
The mountain is an ancient mountain.
So tuff is volcanic rock that's been compressed, volcanic ash, that's been compressed. If basically that is submitted to water, it becomes mud, essentially. Tuff doesn't form. Yeah. So you're basically saying that somehow tuff has been forming all this time, even through a flood.
Hey, is this mountain a volcanic mountain? Wouldn't you expect to be tuff?
Yeah. But I wouldn't expect it to be underwater.
What's the relevance of that?
So if it's underwater, you should find layers of shale.
At one time, it was underwater for a short period of time. Yes.
Oh, really?
No,
can you? Yeah, I don't think that's
flood,
true.
If this is a ship and if it floated there, the mountain was underwater.
Yeah, I guess our point is that that mountain, that volcanic mountain, was not always that high, that these layers of tuff are from volcanic ash being compressed and made into tuff or tuffite.
Right.
There was at no point, like we do not find a layer of shale underneath that structure that you're talking about. What we find is tuff and tuffite. So the idea that the waters had flooded over this volcanic ash and then it formed into tuffite is completely unrealistic.
But please, there's so much about the actual discovery. You're quoting misinformation. Okay,
No.
tuff has nothing to do with the discovery. Except
they were showing a picture of tuff. Ember showed them with a piece of tuff.
You're not talking with a media person. You're talking with someone who works with archaeologists, and who archaeologists want to work with me. And science, I work with mainstream science. So,
okay,
that
Philip.
Irrelevance. It has nothing to do with. I mean, what? In fact, I did answer Price's report that he did on this. It's been published on Norm Geisler's site in very detail, went through, said what was right about it and what was wrong about it. But, I hate to get in. It's such a distraction. None of those were archaeologists. Randall Price, not an archaeologist. NAMI, we're not an archaeologist.
Are you an archaeologist? Do you have some sort of degree from somewhere?
I do work with archaeologists. And
okay,
fact,
so you're not an archaeologist either. This is the thing.
I'm not a doctor, but I've worked with doctors. Does that qualify me to speak about medical matters?
Well, listen,
right.
I was an invited guest to the executive committee of the American Schools of Oriental Research. Do you know who the American Schools of Oriental Research are?
I know that sort of Oriental is kind of a really insulting term these
days.
That's
that ASOR that you mentioned.
Yeah, they changed the name. They changed the name of ASOR because of that reason. For many years, it was the most venerable organization involved with archaeology of the ancient Near East. I mean, William Albright was one of the founders of it. The Israeli archaeologists were taught by the.
Okay. Philip, my point is that you're sort of leveraging against us that we're not archaeologists and we're not geologists.
I'm sorry.
Hang on. Let me finish. We're not these. We don't have these credentials. The same can be said of you. Your field is in telecommunications, I believe.
Yeah, but my knowledge of archaeology. Okay, I've just let me. You're talking about falsifiability. I've just written a book to explain to archaeologists the archaeological context of this site. In fact, the prehistoric archaeology in general. To provide the test to be able to falsify whether this is the Ark or whether it's not the Ark.
Do you imagine that archaeologists,
no matter how much you do on anything historical, you can never prove it, but you can disprove. So we have got a methodology to disprove.
Cool. What is it?
What I think is interesting here, nobody actually talks about the fact that there is a wooden structure on Mount Ararat, which Philip has visited. He has been there. He has made videos on the structure. It is, as far as I understood, a huge wooden structure and I have counted how many different kind of wood structures and wood planks that there are. And I have counted over 150 different types of planks. And they are not small structures. They have considerable size. And Philip has been there. He has filmed that. And if we are talking here about falsification, for me, visual information, videos, this is evidence. And you guys simply dismiss it, say, oh, this is just a movie set which has been put there.
No,
there is no evidence
the villagers who built
besides hearsay that this is a movie
set.
The
villagers who built it are not hearsay.
And you guys simply dismiss it and think it is just a made-up structure. I would really like to hear Philip telling us about what he thinks that he actually saw there, because he is an eyewitness. He has
Let's
been
be able
there.
to
He has
to
felt that
address what you've
structure.
said.
So I would really
Otangelo.
like to give the
Sure.
opportunity to Philip
I've
to
seen
give
video of
some
haunted
information
houses where they
about
show
what he
ghosts and
saw there.
monsters. Does that mean there's ghosts and monsters for real, or is somebody faking us out?
Plus,
Sure,
this
there's
isn't
wood
based
there.
upon
Right.
this isn't based upon nothing. For a start, hang on, no. I got to address what like Otangelo says stuff and then wants to move onwards. We're not moving onwards. I'm addressing what you're going to say, Otangelo. We're not just going to flick past it and ignore it. So the first claim was kind of falsification. When you said falsification, what you said is there's evidence for it. That's not what falsification is. Falsification is what would disprove it. What would be the criteria for
what
showing
would
this
disprove
thing
it?
is
If
not.
you could
Yes.
demonstrate
Well, just let me
that
finish. Let me
someone
finish.
brought that
So
wood
when
up
when you
there to
say
the hill,
when
to
you
the
say there's
mountain,
evidence for it, when
to
you say,
make a
hey,
movie
I've
set,
seen
that would actually
Otangelo,
certify
seriously?
that it is not a real structure,
One
a
sec,
wooden
just so because
structure.
there's too much. People can't hear either side if there's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I know this.
Can I
I
talk?
know. Yeah. Well,
Well, I want to finish saying what I was saying. Yeah. So when you're talking falsification, you're talking what would disprove it, not talking about what you think proves it, right? So that's the first thing. Second thing, it's not based on no evidence, based upon the testimony of the people that were actually up there, the main archaeologist and one of the geologists that Nami said were their people. It's based upon the samples coming back, and no laboratory has found them to have the accurate dates. There's a lot of evidence that that is not the Ark. Now, you're basically saying, hey, but there's a structure up there. Sure, there's a structure up there. How do you tell it's the Ark?
Okay. All right. Can I speak a little bit here?
Sure.
Okay. I recognize that NAMI was not an archaeological organization. Of course, I'm not an archaeologist, but I know archaeologists. Okay, and the archaeologists, they don't know what this is, but they recognize that it's not a recent fabrication.
Wow.
Well, to start
Who
with,
has said that? Can you cite somebody?
I can cite the archaeologist, the official from ISOR who went with me. When in fact they said, just a matter of intelligence. How do you fabricate surface rod on timber? How do you, if you can recreate this as a movie set when you take them and then cover it up like Randall Price and Don Patton changed, that means that you've got to. The only way you could actually fabricate this is you've got to build the ship up on the mountain. Then you've got to push it off and create this great wreckage that exists on the mountain.
Do you though?
And how?
Do you though?
Okay.
How much?
Well,
how much of the wreckage did you personally see? Like 100 feet worth? Like you don't have to build the whole boat.
Right. Well, there's several sections. Okay. No, I only saw one of the sections of it. I could see a level below me, and I could see a level above. In fact, the video. I don't know if you've seen the video that Garrett Alton did, a photo video with my words and my photographs. It's gotten over 6 million views, and it's impressive what you see there, and the amount of wood, and the construction of the wood. Now let's talk about this looking like new wood. You want to talk about that?
Well, I'd like to address that wood. Okay, so but Randall Price said that they got it from an old structure near the Black Sea and then hauled it up there, basically. So when you're saying, hey, it's got wood rot, it's like, well, if it was pulled from an old structure, of course it would have wood rot. You're expecting it to have, like, if they got it from fresh from the mill kind of thing, and that's not what anybody is saying. So it is not unexpected if they did get it from an old structure, as Randall says, that it would have wood rot on it.
Okay, basically, Randall Price. I've read his reports more thoroughly than any of you. Okay. He basically says it's recreated each time because they have to hide it. They have to take it down. They build this movie set and then they take it down. Just the amount of work involved in this, and when you look at this, just the structure I've visited, I question. I mean, the archaeologists don't give this any attention. They just question the intelligence of someone who could actually believe that. And plus, you're basing this on a anonymous source from a rival archaeological team.
No,
And
he
you're
was
not
on the
suspicious,
archaeological team.
and you're not
Let me
suspicious of
interject
that.
here.
How could it
Don
be an
Patton
anonymous
didn't have
source if you
one
know it's from a rival team?
photograph showing of people bringing up wood up on Mount Ararat to construct this site. How is it possible that they make this claim and there is no evidence whatsoever that this is a place which has been constructed by construction workers? This is heavy wood which has to be bought, it has to be brought to the mountain. Where is the evidence? There is that claim, and it is just a claim. Don Patton, in 1.5 hours of conversation, wasn't able to bring me one kind of hard evidence that this claim is true. Murat Mahin, even worse. He just said that he heard it from other people. So my question is, if you guys believe that this is a movie set which was staged, I want to see the evidence for this claim, because until now I have not seen it.
Well,
so,
first of all,
sorry,
that's totally aside from the point, because whether or not it's a movie set, that is a separate question from whether or not it's the Ark. But as to those particular points, Don Patton produced his own video where he went up to the site, which is no longer accessible because the glacier moved, brought there by the people who told him they built the set. If you believe the Bible, which is based on testimony, then the fact there's people alive today giving testimony that you could go there and talk to yourself if you want to, testifying they did this work, they built this thing, I don't see why there would be a problem with that. But more importantly, they gave Don a piece of the wood from the site that they used, and it is modern. He shows it in his video.
No.
And this isn't testimony from just anybody or random people. This is testimony from the head archaeologist on that expedition and from one of the geologists on that
Who was the
expedition.
archaeologist? Who was the archaeologist?
Randall Price, apparently.
He's not an archaeologist. By the way, Don Patton's, the site they visited was not at the same elevation of the site.
This is the problem.
They went to the wrong place.
This is the problem. Part of your evidence for this being the Ark was that the people that found it so magnificently were terrible at what they did that they didn't even get an archaeologist for it. You're sort of claiming that an archaeologist will back you up on this. You're claiming ASOR will back you up on this. ASOR isn't standing behind this as the Ark, are they?
Well,
nor any archaeologist.
I'm sorry, I couldn't finish. It's really very bad that I didn't finish the explanation. First of all, we can't do any test on this site until it's under archaeological permission. And this being a war-torn mountain, they have never given archaeological permission for a site on this mountain. There's security reasons. Now, that might not be the case, but this has to be done properly. By the way, there has been peer-written articles on this. I've written one, and Dr.
Can you cite it?
Yeah.
It's
in. There's been a number of archaeological conferences held concerning this, and these will be did. But let me move on. Right now, why we can't do these? In fact, NAMI got in trouble by doing what they did because they did not. Antiquities laws are pretty severe, and we follow them. It's exactly because we would lose our everything if we didn't. And you cannot break laws. There was a gentleman, I forgot what his name is. He presented that at one of the ASOR meetings, Joel Klink. He was an archaeologist, a Harvard-trained archaeologist, but he had broken some laws, and so he's tossed out of the project based on that, or at least the ASOR felt like that he did that. But you know, right now, I can show you why I went to the defense based on my archaeological work. And I've written a book to provide the methodology to determine a test that would falsify this. This is not Noah's Ark. And no matter how much you do, you know, anything historical, you cannot prove it. I mean, you can always speculate something else, no matter what it is. You know, you can speculate whether Caesar really crossed the Rubicon. Now, you were talking. I gave you Josephus.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Probably no more referred to when you start tossing out, and then you've tossed out everything, and you can prove nothing, and you can know nothing about history, because if somebody's made a mistake, you toss it out, and you can find reason for tossing out evidence. I mean, if you want to do it that way. So that's not the way it works, but you do want things, you do want to test, you do want testable criteria. And that's what that's what I work.
Do you want to go on to Josephus or me?
Yeah, I'll just mention Josephus real quick. I did look that up while Mark was on about volcanic tuft, and what Josephus says is that quote, there's a great mountain in Armenia over Menneus called Baris, upon which it is reported that many who fled at the time of the deluge were saved. So Josephus says the mountain is called Baris.
What are you reading
in Armenia?
Yeah, what are you reading?
That's Antiquities 93.
All right, well, that's not what I'm quoting. You need to go to Against Alpion.
Yeah, the Associates of Biblical Research says that Josephus identifies the mountains of the Baris as being in Armenia in the land of Urartu, and another name for the land of Ararat, which is not the same as Mount Ararat in Turkey.
Well, wait. You need to go to Josephus actually wrote another book, one of my favorites of his, Against Alpion. There's where you will find the statement that it is at the highest part of the mountains of Armenia. And you don't hear that quoted. Just because you read a book from biblical scholarship, like the term.
Is Mount Ararat the highest mountain in Armenia?
Yes, sir. In fact, it's the highest mountain in the ancient Near East.
I mean, that's all cool and stuff. Josephus doesn't say what you said Josephus said. The mountain is volcanic. Even if there were an ark on top of it, and the volcano erupted, how would the ark survive?
Please.
There's all these tangential things, but you keep saying you have a methodology to falsify that this might be the ark. But you just keep saying that. What is the methodology?
Well, I published it in my recent book, Ancient Life.
Okay, so a book, anybody can write a book. Okay, we don't.
He has been there. What else do you want? He has
let me speak.
Let me speak. Seen the place. What more do you guys want?
Well, it's
falsification
not enough.
Criteria.
It's not enough to see a place and say it looks like this.
Well,
let me speak. Let me speak, Otangelo.
Otangelo, to be fair,
Otangelo,
hold on, Otangelo. He did let you speak, and you asked a question, so I just want to give Mark a chance to answer that question.
It's not enough to go to a place and say, hey, there's wood there. It looks like what I'm expecting to find. It looks like this. It looks like that. That's not how we do things for anything. That's the problem with the Durapinda site. We basically saw it. It looks like a boat. Then it's a boat. No, we don't do that. What we do is do some scientific testing to establish that that thing is actually the thing that it is. And we've got multiple reports that it is fabricated. We've got problems with the organization that found it. We've got problems with any archaeologist or geologist backing this up. We've got all these problems around it. And you want to say, well, where's the evidence that it's not the ark? And that is not how science is done. You need a falsification criteria to say, hey, if this isn't the ark, this is what we expect to find, and be able to substantiate that by making tests in order to overcome that falsifiability criteria.
Excuse me, science is not done by the way you're talking, but taking unidentified report. You said multiple reports about this. Would you provide me those multiple reports saying that this was a fabricated structure?
Yeah, but I've named the people that did the reports. I can find their sort of public declaration. Are you serious? We've just been talking about it.
Yeah. Well, there was a report done. Randall Price did a report. The only one I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But you said
he did a statement.
Yeah, but science does not use anonymous sources.
I never said it should.
Unlike the Bible. But that's totally aside the point. Before Otangelo interrupted you, you were just about to talk about falsification criteria.
Yeah, but you're using the worst type of science to argue against this.
What falsification
people confessing
criteria?
that they built the thing?
You're reading anonymous reports by people who have a motive to disparage this.
Okay, Philip, you've got a hypothesis. Should it have a falsification? Should it have a falsification criteria?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, and what is it?
It concerns the pottery that's the ceramics and other cultural identifiers in the Ark and how that matches the migrations from this site.
Have you had that pottery tested to make sure that it is from the Mesopotamian area north?
The pottery now is in a museum in Turkey, and it's licensed. Archaeologists do this.
Okay.
The pottery
do you have
from
any kind
inside the proposed ark is in the museum.
The problem here, okay, is wait. Why are you smiling?
Because you're not giving us any kind of actual report of this or actual analysis of this. You're just claiming they found pottery in your structure that's now in a museum in Turkey. You would think those people would be able to identify the pottery.
This
can
pottery,
you give us
this pottery?
Hang on, you brought up this pottery. Can you give us some sort of
let me do it. Let me do it. This pottery was published in the very report you mentioned. Pictures of it. That's when I first saw it. And I said, oh, wow, this is matching the Kurik migrations. Now, you don't understand what any of that means, but if you were an archaeologist, you would.
But you're not an archaeologist either, so can you give us a citation for that pottery being
I don't have to be an archaeologist to understand
archaeology. You know how to be an archaeologist.
I'm not a digger, and I'm not an archaeologist, but I don't have any problem getting archaeologists to work on this project. In fact, many of them want to work on the project.
Well, can you give us some sort of link for this pottery that you're saying proves that Noah's Ark?
Yes, certainly. Okay. In fact, if I just very briefly go back to my slideshow, is that possible? Sure. Which will answer so many of these questions. Yeah. Okay, let me. Here I'll shift it to my slideshow here, but now I've got to get to my slideshow. Here I am, I think. Okay, all right. Here is a. This is.
Is there a way? I hate to ask. Forgive me, but
go ahead.
If I stretch the screen, they won't be able to see it'll be very, very blurry. Could you do the screen share that you did earlier in the debate? I think that.
Let me see if I can do that. Okay. I have to find Zoom somewhere. Is this and screen share? So
on the Zoom window, usually there's a green button in the middle, either on the top or the bottom of the Zoom window.
There it is. Okay.
And then you can select which window
I want
you
to share
want.
that. Okay. Let's see. Okay, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm speaking about, if this is Noah's Ark, the historical sciences have made some great mistake. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, is it possible that the historical sciences could be wrong about something?
That's
it's happened a lot.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Okay.
It's possible,
here's
but you
a
have
new
to
narrative.
demonstrate they actually
All
have.
right.
That's the
All right.
problem.
Here's my narrative. Now, I mentioned, by the way, before I mentioned the creation of science, I mentioned the mainstream science narrative,
Well,
which
we're not
is
really interested in narratives. I mean, anybody can make a narrative. It doesn't demonstrate anything.
well, if you're going to talk about the origins of the ancient history, you're going to have some kind of narrative. Now, here's the mainstream science narrative. Here's what this looked like: the Ice Age, and there's cavemen, the Ice Age, and then, of course, man, his origins began on Earth as a hunter-gatherer. You know this during the Ice Age of several million years ago.
Okay, I don't get what this got to do
All
with
right,
the pottery.
by the way, this Sulao created the antiquity of man that created the problems. And then, of course, according to the mainstream narrative, after the Ice Age, you have the invention of agriculture in the Fertile Crescent. You had cities and civilization that follow. You have they're supposed to be continuous. They're not. You have, therefore, the flood story of the Bible must be a Bronze Age myth. That's the standard word. And there's many scientific problems with the worldwide flood. I think you understand this is the mainstream narrative, right? Okay, now let's go to the.
I don't get what this has got to do with the
yeah, for the
pottery.
sake of argument, let's just move along.
I'm just showing you what I'm presenting because you have to know what the standard
Well,
narrative.
there's kind of
Okay,
problems.
here's the creation science narrative that you've been addressing. For the last 100 years, it's been the only explanation of a worldwide flood. It's focused on 24-hour creation days. You know this, and therefore a young Earth. Flood is used to explain fossils like the dinosaurs. It's mostly a fish killing flood. There's little or no evidence in the creation science knowledge about people who perished. And of course, they can't do what I'm doing, tracing the historical nations. In fact, mainstream science hasn't been able to do it. Because the Mount Ararat sits on top of their evidence, the young Earth evidence, then this has to be, according to them, a post-flood volcano.
That's what I've heard them say.
And therefore, like Andrew Snelling, they have been the chief opponents of this discovery. All right, now here's my narrative. First of all, of course, it's new. According to me, there never was an ice age.
Okay, I feel this is really irrelevant to what we were discussing.
Yeah, creation.
I don't know. It's
and you're kind of running off the rails from point one.
Okay, well, you'll see why I'm having to present this. The geological evidence that's been presented as the Ice Age is actually the evidence of the flood. In fact, it was regarded by the geologists as the flood. This is your catastrophism, the diluvium. The American Journal of Science was based on diluvium geology, in which there was a worldwide flood. And whether it covered all the mountains, there was not complete agreement. Now, according to my narrative, there was actually no rain during this period. There was a different type of water hydrological cycle. Now, if you think about this as connected with the Ice Age, there was obviously something different in the Ice Age, whether even if you don't agree with my narrative. But according to my narrative, human civilizations across the world perished in the flood. And so were these megafauna, these mammoths, and some of them, they disappeared only about the time of the flood. But on all continents, by the way. And I can trace historical nations from Mount Ararat. I've written a book on them. We can possibly confirm that this discovery is likely Noah's Ark if these migrations are matching. If we could show that the historical nations came from this mountain, we can show this.
Yeah. So just to
let me
down
finish
that.
here. I'm not finished.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, this has got nothing to do with it, but we know that.
Yes, it does. It does. You must listen if you want me to answer your question.
Well, we know that haploid.
I can give you, Philip, I can give you a little bit to wrap up, maybe another 30 seconds, and then we're actually getting to the point where we usually, Philip,
you don't want me
please,
to answer your question.
Philip, I'm going to give you a chance to answer his question. It's me, James. I'm going to give you a chance to answer his question. I just want to give you a heads up that we usually do go into the Q&A in this last 30 minutes. So I do have to ask if you're able to maybe just give a quick, succinct, like 30-second wrap up.
It goes very fast, okay? But you look at what I'm saying here. What's called most of the prehistoric civilizations that have been explained as religious burials were actually from the drowning. The prehistoric men from the Ice Age to the early Bronze Age, the chronology, they're really kind of overlapping. They were not developed from archaeology layers, they were developed from anthropology and projected on there. So mankind, I'm actually, even though I'm an old Earth, I'm showing that mankind has probably not been around more than about 6,000 years. Now, I have more on the days of, this is the complete thing. I'll skip over this. But I just want to mention that the Bible was unique in teaching about a world without man. Other literatures, even during the Enlightenment, when they believed they could not conceive of the world without man, but the Bible has it. Okay,
I hate to do this, Philip, but we have limited time, and this is.
All right,
I hate to do
we
it.
finished with it. Okay, but I just wanted to explain to you. I went to the defense of this because I saw the archaeology that was published in this report that was supposed to be disconfirming it, and I saw it matching the pottery that was leading from the ark, showing that the nations are really coming from this site. That's why I went to the defense of it, based on archaeological reasons, not based on only what I actually, from the evidence I actually saw. Now, that's
so you saw it. Let me try to steal, man. You saw a photo of pottery that to you from the photo looked like other pottery that confirms this hypothesis you'd been brewing about a mixture of standard science and young earth creationism with young humans and a global flood.
What does young humans and global flood have to do with it?
Well, that was what I was wondering during your presentation.
I must say, just quickly, we can tell from genetics, from haplogroups. Haplogroup sort of L came from Africa, not from thing. And it's weird because you sort of mentioned in your introduction mitochondrial Eve, but mitochondrial Eve wasn't the Eve of the Bible. We know there were other women around at the time. That's just the female that all mitochondrial DNA leads to when you go backwards. It's interesting because chromosome Y Adam is at a completely different time frame. So they're just words used to describe something. So we know that humans did not originate in Turkey. We know that humans originated in Africa due to genetic haplogroups and the way those haplogroups diversify.
Did you know that
the
populations match a mix
of
the genetic clock goes in reverse? Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, that's what the science says about genetics, the way these.
Yeah, the science very much doubts the out of Africa hypothesis.
No, it doesn't.
There are many new discoveries which put that in question.
Well, you'll have to show me those one day, Otangelo, because I don't know any mainstream.
Yeah,
science
I mean, I had it in my presentation, but I was cut off. So, yeah.
This might be a good opportunity to go into the Q&A. I want to say, folks, a couple of quick housekeeping things. First, our guests are linked in the description. If you'd like to hear more, you certainly can by clicking on their links below. Also, as mentioned, if you have been living in a cave on Mars with your fingers in your ears and you didn't know, BaitCon, our fourth in-person debate conference hosted by Modern Day Debate, is in Dallas, Texas on Saturday, November 4th and Sunday, November 5th. You don't want to miss it. Tickets are on sale now. You can grab them down below in the description box. Also, there's a crowdfund. If you're listening from afar, you can help support the project as we have things like venue costs, and you can get, for example, a signed photo of your favorite speaker. You don't want to miss it. Check out that crowdfund linked in the description, and thanks for all your support on that. That crowdfund meter is shown on the right side of the screen in case you were wondering what that was. Now, for the Q&A, we want to move through these as fast as possible, and also want to say thank you, folks, and most of all, thank you very much to our debaters for making this debate possible. 100% of the Super Chats for tonight's debate are going to go to Worldwide Orphans. We'll post the link for the donation receipt, and that way you can match up the amount for the Super Chats, and that way we have that full transparency for the donation. We always want to have that accountability. So, folks, feel free to email me if you want to see the full receipt for the donation. I'm happy to send that to whoever asks. But we're going to jump right into it right now. Orfenio says, just show me the Ark. Otangelo, he said, not the one in Williamstown, Kentucky. That is fake. I don't know about this one. Where's Williamstown, Kentucky? Are they talking about the Ark encounter, or is that something else?
No, that's not in Kentucky. I think somebody
Yeah.
built a replica, like a small replica or something in
Wow,
Williamstown.
that's juicy. Well, okay,
Or is
okay.
that the Ark encounter? No, that is the Ark encounter. I'm completely wrong.
Yeah.
That is the Ark
AIG is
encounter.
based in
Okay.
Kentucky. I'm not sure it's Williamstown, but I can't see there being multiple arcs that close together.
It is Williamstown. I didn't think it was.
There's
Okay.
there's one on every corner. You're right,
Yes.
Mark. I read about it a while ago. A gentleman, I think he's like in Sweden. I think he's in Europe somewhere. Had
Denmark
built,
or something? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I remember hearing about that too.
super interesting. So,
And that one actually wasn't made of concrete and floated, which was interesting.
wow, this one coming in from
Obviously, it was a lot smaller.
Beamsy says, for Ark, yes. One photo shows a spider web in one of the corners. Is it possible for spiders to live at that height, survive in that coldness of temperature, or did that photograph a cave positioned much lower than 4 kilometers?
Yes, I have actually investigated this, and there are spiders which live up to that height. So yes, this is possible.
4 kilometers. Okay.
I'll talk to varmints up there, and they have something to eat.
You got it. This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Beamsy strikes again. Says for the Ark side again. They say the guide leading the search/mission is known to be very unreliable. Why did they hire him anyway? I don't know what this is about.
Ahmet Artagral, aka Parachute, the guy who hired the villagers to build the sets and then brought the Nami team to the sets. Yeah, he's been caught on a number of different frauds.
Wow.
No, excuse me. None of you know this man. I know this man. I know both sides of his family. He knows both sides of my family very well. Yeah, you're just slandering the man.
It's
And
not
so
slander if it's true.
Yes, where's the evidence? This is just hearsay.
Yes, but you're just taking slander and quoting it as fact, and then you're wanting to talk science.
No, I would love to talk science, but we haven't done very much of that tonight. Every time we try to approach science, we ask about falsification criteria, and you give this long litany of random stuff. We ask about the pottery that you talked about, and you go on a 10-minute slideshow and never actually get to the pottery.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You said there was a number of criteria based around the pottery, and none, like the pottery was basically. Yeah, well, can we test that? Is that something that's testable?
The archaeologists will be testing that.
Okay, so when is that? And I think it was interesting that Ember's other questions was, when are you actually going to publish this, considering you've promised these times?
Did you hear me say that the government has not given an archaeological permission for anything on this mountain? And there's security reasons for that.
But it's also interesting, considering I was just watching earlier today a team from New Zealand bragging about how they got authorization from the government and permits to dig at the Darupinar site. So the government is giving out permits to investigate supposed Ark sites.
Yes.
I think that information a little old. But actually the government is getting interested in this. So in fact, that site, I credit them. I'm glad they did that, because it showed how much interest there is in Noah's Ark and this mountain, and so that's a big help. Even they.
You got it. Let me check this out, folks. Let me know if I got to plug this. I just did a new mic, folks. So let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if this is an improvement. It's worse. Wow. Let me do what I can do here. Actually, let me ask you guys. For those you can hear me on the Yeti right now. So right now I'm using the Yeti. Is this mic? Can you hear me? Does it sound normal?
Now you're stable.
It doesn't sound like someone was telling me in the chat that it sounded as if I was speaking over a loudspeaker from the 1940s. Doesn't sound like that? Philip, did you say yes? Weird. Let me see. It is okay. I have no idea what's going on. Someone says it's good. Now they're saying, okay, thanks for your feedback, folks. I don't know. I'm so surprised. Anyway. Next question. Thanks very much for your question from Big Fang Group. Flying Wayne says, Sick Gibbon murdered the Ark with heat problem. Juicy. And Happy Clam says, if found, would a pilgrimage to the Ark help Chud Logic with his sadness? He's down bad and could use a break from his prolonged coonsh? Goon sesh? I don't know. I hope he's doing all right. He will be at DebateCon, by the way, folks. Hates stairs. Huh? I can't hear you. One more time. That'll up his mood. Okay, sorry. I'm like my brain sometimes doesn't do a good job of like separating words. This one from Hates Stairs says James audio is like infrared with his high gain. Love you, modern day debate. It is true. When we started the debate, my audio was like, I don't know what happened. Thank you for this one from Meh. Mithradate6 says, can Philip admit that he is not that he's refusing to show the pottery, and that why wouldn't he show them instead? He just went on a tangent. They sounds like they want to see the pottery. Whoa. Okay, let me just fix this. What? One sec. It is. I'm sorry about this. No, I know. I'm just saying they can't hear you. One sec. I just want to figure out. I don't know what it is. I don't know why the desktop audio all of a sudden vanished on me. I've never had that happen. Jeez Louise. Um, bear with me. Sorry about this, guys. I have no idea what is going on. Let's see. So how do I'm going to re-add it as an audio source, and pardon my interruption. In the meantime, folks, check out our guest linked down in the description box. I'm just adding in a new audio input, namely desktop audio. So let me look for that right now.
Unplug it and plug it back in.
Okay, now it's back. Can you say that again?
Unplug it and plug it back in.
I don't know what it is, because the desktop audio is like basically I'm telling OBS to project my audio that I'm hearing from like Zoom, and I didn't even do anything that should affect it, and it's back. So thanks for your patience. Albert Hank, next question said, drop $1. Let's see. S. Poor Loki Renarson says, I got so lost there in the end. If it was my audio, forgive me, friend. And I think that's it for the questions. So we do want to say, folks, if you have any last questions, quick, get them in. And just quick skim over the chat. We had one just come in now. They say, after show, locked and loaded. Oh, it's Dr. Dino. You're right. This is a different person than I thought, Mark and Ember. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Dr. Dino, if I'm saying it right. They say, after show, locked and loaded, creationists, Christians, atheists, and etc. are all welcome. Open mic. Mark and Ember have the link. Good show, boyos. I'm happy to put that in the description box. So Let
Oh,
me just throw
I
that
see
in
how it
there
is.
right now. Uh, that's who it was. Okay, Ember, if you have it, let me know and I can add that into the description box for
Yeah,
people
let
to
me
check that out.
grab it real quick here. Making me do
Yeah.
work. What's up with that?
Thanks for your thanks for doing that. We didn't share it in chat. Although I think it's because I don't know if if people can share links in the live chat. I think YouTube, it's either YouTube or our settings. I don't know if people are able to, but let me check. Beamsy says on the 15th of June 2023, an archaeological expedition to examine the Ararat anomaly on the western summit at approximately 39 degrees 40 north, 44, etc. degrees, including artifact removal. Does anybody know what
I,
they mean?
I don't know. It's not the site that I visited.
You got it.
I thought the
Nera the
Arad anomaly
atheist.
was the Nami
Yeah,
site.
that's been the most popular site for the Ark on Mount Ararat, is that in that where you mentioned, but it's not the site that I visited or that NAMI reported.
You got it. This one from Captain. Thanks for that feedback on the mic. I didn't mean to be peeking. So is they said your mic audio is great, not serviceable. Might want to check it sometime. I'll check that. This one coming in from Nero the Atheist said, excellent job, Mark and Ember. You guys got a fan for your team there.
Nara's
Then,
awesome.
yeah, so want to say thanks, folks, for tuning in. That is it for the questions that I've got here. So I want to say thanks, folks, for tuning in. We're going to let our guests rest for the rest of the night. I want to say huge thank you, Otangelo, Philip, Mark, and Ember. It's been a true pleasure to have you guys tonight.
Hell yeah, glad
Thank you so
to
much.
have you back on the mic, James.
With
Yeah.
that, I'm going to be
And
back in just a moment, folks, with a post-credits scene letting you know about upcoming debates. So stick around for that. And thanks for watching, folks. Stick around. I'll be back in about 20 seconds. And one last thank you to our speakers. Amazing. My dear friends, want to say thanks so much for all of your support. Glad that you are here. And also want to say that was a fun debate. We do appreciate you, whether you be atheist, Christian, Muslim, you name it. We are glad that you were here at Modern Day Debate. We appreciate you hanging out with us. And we hope you feel welcome no matter what walk of life you are from. I'm going to let you know about a couple of upcoming things. So if you didn't see this already, as you can see at the bottom right of your screen, flipping it over to David Wood and Aaron Ra will be debating. You don't want to miss this. It's going to be a fun one. That's at DebateCon coming up this November 4th. I'm really excited about this, you guys. These are a lot of fun, these conferences. I've got to tell you, I am absolutely thrilled to get to host this. And what I'm going to do is load up my camera right now because I know that I disappeared on you. Here I am. But I want to say thanks for your support, folks. I've got to say, we've got so many people that support modern day debate in so many ways. It wouldn't run without it being a community effort, for real. Like, I'm just one guy sending out emails in the background. And the truth is, there are just so many people that help modern day debate in all sorts of different ways. So we want to say thank you to them. And thank you for your donations via Super Chat tonight to Worldwide Orphans. We do a monthly charity stream here where a cause that's important to us. Sometimes it's organized. We've been doing Worldwide Orphans a lot, but we've also given to Save the Children. These are nonpartisan charities They're helping people in poverty across the world. And in particular, as you can probably guess, Worldwide Orphans is in particular trying to help orphans. Oftentimes they've maybe lost their families, like their parents, maybe in warfare or whatever it might be. And this is an organization that says, hey, like, we don't care what country you're from, what religion or lack of religion. No matter if you're just a person, we want to help you. In particular, they want to help orphans across the globe. So I want to say thank you guys for your support of that. Also, I've got to tell you, I am so excited to be here, you guys, because I haven't hosted a debate for like almost a month. Isn't that crazy? So thanks for being patient as I work out all the tech stuff tonight. And like the audio. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Thank you for your feedback on that. I've got to tell you, if you can see at the bottom or the far right of your screen, this is the GoFundMe meter for how much we've raised. And so our goal is $1,000. And you might be thinking, like, James, like, what? So you can go on vacation? No, actually, these in-person events are really expensive. We're looking for ways that we can cut costs. So, for example, we're like, wow, it's like maybe, because we put the speakers up for a night before they're speaking and then the night of their speaking. So if they speak Saturday at 12 p.m., we give them a hotel night. If they're an out of towner, where they'll come in, they'll fly in on Friday night, and we cover their flight, and then we'll put them up for a night Friday night at the hotel. And for us, it's really important. We want them to feel comfortable and be well rested for their talk, so we don't want them to have to fly at 5 in the morning or something. And the thing is, it's important to us, and those costs add up. So the crowd fund, which I highly encourage you, if you haven't checked it out, check out the crowd fund. It's linked in the description box. And this is where you can sign up for cool perks, like a signed photo of your favorite speaker, or it could be a signed emblem page from the event where it's signed by all the debaters for that day. So, for example, it'd be like Destiny for the political debates day, as well as like Todd Logic and Leo and Sean Fitzgerald, actual Justice Warrior. So that's like, those are cool things. It's also, if you're like, wow, I was like, I don't know if I can give at one of those tiers, but maybe I just give like a couple of bucks because I'm like, hey, I just like the channel. Thanks for, putting these on because it's fun to watch. That means more than you know. So I want to say, for real, we really do appreciate that. And the last conference, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys, we actually are still not quite. I think I've got to do the math, but last time I checked, we were not in the black or in the green, whatever you want to call it, in terms of total revenue. So in other words, tickets sold, the crowd fund, and then YouTube revenue. That's how we cover these conferences. So like they're not really making money. It's more just about, it's a fun time. Debaters, we're kind of building relationships. We're also expanding the Modern Day Debate brand as we want to be YouTube's premier debate channel, as we have the vision of providing a neutral platform so that everybody can make their case on a level playing field. No matter who, whether they be atheists, whether they be Christians, Muslims, we want to give them a fair shot. Whether they be politically left, politically right, libertarian, in the middle, whatever. We want to give everybody their fair chance to make their case. And when we do these conferences, though, yeah, I think sometimes people are like, oh, it's like, must be raking in the money. It's like, no, the reason we do a crowd fund is it's a safety net because it's actually pretty tough to break even. So our first conference, I still don't know if we've broken even on that one. Because, the cool thing is, like, you can have a debate that still brings in revenue, like, months later. So that's one cool thing that is, like, protective for us, like, where it's like, okay, well, eventually we'll have that revenue come back. But sometimes it's like, whoa, I got to be honest. The last conference, it was like, holy moly. Our expenses were huge. Our ticket sales, frankly, I think our ticket prices weren't priced right. That was my fault. But yeah, so we're still making up for that one. And so that's why we do those crowd funds, is that any excess that we have, whether it be through ticket sales or the crowd fund, we want to put it toward the next conference, such as getting bigger names, bigger guests for Modern Day Debate to continue growing. So want to say thank you guys for all of your support, though. If you are in the Texas area, are you from actually, let me know in chat. I actually get a kick out of this when I'm in other live streams and they do it. Let me know where you're from. Like, what city are you from? I'm in Fort Collins. I'm going to type that in the chat right now. I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado. In case you didn't know, that's where that is. I'm in Fort Collins, Colorado, and let me know in the chat where you guys are watching from. I'm wondering. I'm like, we've got a couple hundred people watching, 244. If you're in Texas, let me know. Is anybody like who's watching right now in Texas? I would think like if each state is equally represented and there are 250 people watching, I mean, of course, you've got a global audience, so some people are watching from Europe right now. But in Australia, especially, Europeans are mostly asleep by now. But if we had roughly, let's say we had 200 of our people viewing right now are from the United States, and then that would mean about four on average from Texas. But Texas has a bigger population than average, so it's got more than its fair share of uh, viewership in terms of US citizens. So it would be a bigger proportion of that 200. So it's probably more like, I would guess there are probably like 6 or 7 people watching right now during this live stream that are in Texas. So if you are, so you got Ramilius, thanks for sharing and said, I'm all the way in Sydney, Australia. Wow, Renulius. Sorry, I said that wrong the first time. Thanks for letting me know that. And Chase in Texas. What do you know? Even in the username, Chase is in Texas and says they're in Nabika. Well, thanks for watching from Texas, Chase. And we have Happy Clams from New York City. And then Sim Life from New York, as well as, let's see, Rhode Island. Christopher Fisher, glad to have you here. Mithridates 6 from Salem, Massachusetts. I had a friend, Dr. Becca Brisbois from Salem, Massachusetts. I don't know if you'd know her, but yeah, she's in the same program I'm in. She's awesome. And then Yahooligan says Niagara Falls, beautiful area. Canada or US? I can't remember. Is there a city that, do each of them have a city called Niagara Falls? I don't know. Let's see. New Mexico from Space Miner from New Mexico. Captain Lasseri from Finland. Wow. Thanks for staying up late with us. And let's see. Colton said just bought 2 tickets, live 10 minutes away. Wow. Now that's awesome. Thanks for buying. We are excited. It's going to be so much fun, for real. I love these guys. I'll obviously be there. Ryan will also be there. And the speakers who, oh, I should show you guys. I haven't done a good job of showing you guys these epic posters. So let me show you this really quick. And then I promise I'm going to come right back because I know more people told me where they're watching from. And I'm pumped to hear where you guys are from. So poster one, and this is, I just love these posters. To Patzel, I want to give him full credit. These are not made by me. If they were, I mean, it would not be as creative and it just wouldn't have as good of a layout. If there's ever any like editing where it looks a little bit funny, well, then that is because it was made by me. But the original idea, or like the original poster, came from Tapatzel. And, look at this beautiful poster. Hold on, I'm going to pull it in right now. So I just love, it just looks great. So this is our DebateCon for Religion Debates Day, and that's on Saturday. Okay, now, oh gosh, now it's cranked. Now, okay, you can hear me now. That's so funny. I was behind on the chat because I was trying to see where you guys. Thank you for your heads up. Because I was trying to see, I was looking back at your old cities, but yeah, long story short. Now, oh gosh, there it goes. It does sound a little funny. Let me try
You
this.
can hear me now. That's so funny.
Now, hopefully we don't have the echo. Let's see. So basically, what I want to tell you guys. Basically, for the last like 5 minutes, I was reading through all the different locations. So as an example, I was saying, like where if I saw someone was saying, like I'm from Nabicock, Texas. I was saying like, oh, hey, so and so from Nabicock, Texas. Thanks for tuning in. Like, we're glad you're here. And I was basically saying everybody's name and where they're from. So I want to say thank you guys for your support, though. Let me put it in the second poster. Man, what a rookie mistake. You know what? I haven't had OBS set up in so long. Usually it's so good that it's just like, but yeah, we're all right. We're gonna make it. So, what do you guys think? Are you guys feeling optimistic about the economy? Let's see. I'm gonna put the link to the after show in. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, you guys, I gotta tell you something. Oh wait, you guys, I have to show you this. Let me show you this. Manifold. I'm pumped I can show you this. Okay. Okay, so there are so many things in terms of like what's the word I'm looking for? Okay. You guys, this is cool. Let me show you what is cool. So one, I'm gonna pull in. Did I put the after show in? I think I forgot. Oh man, it's been a long day. Okay, so I have to put the after show in for. By the way, I'm like, all right, Ember. I'm putting an after show in for a guy I don't think I've ever talked to. But hey, but Ember, and Dapper, or no, is it? It's Dino, Dr. Dino. Uh, Whoever you are, we hope you're well. And so, oh, I did put it in. Oh gosh, man, it's like I'm on drugs, but I'm not. So let me show you this in OBS. So manifold. Oh, based, as the kids say. Oh, this is the intro screen? That's weird. All right, whatever. So I want to show you this because you might be thinking like, I want to show you, I want to call your attention to if you look into the description box, what you will see is a link for something called Manifold. So Manifold is basically a fun, like it's not real gambling, there's no real money. So some of you guys, if you're real, "Ooh," chill out. It's not a big deal. What this is it's just a for fun. Manifold is a for fun prediction website where you're predicting. And I highly encourage you. Modern Day Debate is being sponsored by Manifold for DebateCon 4. In particular, I'm going to write this down on a post-it note to share all this stuff every night because there's just so much stuff. If you go down into the description box, it's like the fourth link where it says the charity watchdog. No, no. Yeah. It's the 1, 2, 3. It's the third link in the description box. So go ahead into the description box. Is that you can go on and vote for all of the debates that will be at DebateCon, who you think will be more persuasive. So the way that it'll be determined is on the day of, we're going to have the in-person audience put up their hands. Another reason to go and be an in-person audience member at DebateCon is because you can then vote with your, just slipping your hand up. And Yeah, it's easy. So you can just sign up. It's cool that you can sign up through so many ways. So it recognized that I'm logged in with Modern Day Debate, but let's say I was like, well, I just want to sign up. Let me see how I would do this. Let me see how I sign up if it doesn't recognize it's me. But long story short, it's just play money. You get assigned a certain amount of play money when you start on the website, and then you can use it to vote whatever way you want to. And if you win, like if you correctly predict things, then the cool thing is that you will then, let me try to do this. I'm going to see if I can sign in with like other Google accounts that I can then like vote on. Okay, so is if I make a bet, I'm going to actually see this. But yeah, I do want you guys to check this out. You get mana. That's what it's called. That's the play money that they call it there. So is that I highly encourage you. You can go and it takes like 2 seconds to create an account. Like, you know how you can sign in like automatically with a Google account that you already have? So you don't even have to like fill in the information, which is why it's awesome. Like these guys are doing a fantastic job. Is that you don't have to go through the kind of the just like, oh gosh, like I gotta enter in all this information. I wouldn't like that. So I like that Manifold is awesome and that you can just jump in using an old Google account and voila. So I'm tired. So yeah, it's not an actual gambling website. Ooh. It is just play money called Mana. So highly encourage you guys check this out. It's a lot of fun. And you guys, I think you get a kick out of it if you enjoy these types of things. Um, then hey, what are you waiting for? You can go vote. I'm going to put up other debates as well. So all of the political debates will have a vote where you'll be able to vote like who you thought was the most persuasive in all the political debates at DebateCon. And not only that, but also I'm going to put up yeah. So all the political ones and then this one for Matt and Andrew. That debate is another one. So thanks for your kind words. The Keggy says, congrats on 125,000 subscribers. Thank you. Seriously, I appreciate that. And then Keggy says, why not just do polls in YouTube chat? That's a good question. The reason is the in-person audience is static. And what I mean by that, it's like the same audience as the start of the debate, and it's the same audience at the end. So, in other words, it's like a control. There's a little bit more control versus if I do a poll where like, people at the start of the live stream, because we're going to do a poll at the beginning and the end saying which side do you lean on at the start and then at the end. And if people switched or like started leaning one way more than the other, that'll be how we determine it. But that's something that we wouldn't be able to do in live chat because people are popping into the live chat, like 25% or 50% of the way through the debate, stuff like that. So see, Happy Clam says, have you considered dual streaming to Kick? I would, except the only challenge is that Restream, they don't offer it for Kick. So I got nothing against Kick. I'd be happy to stream there, especially if it's free. Basically like the cool thing about this right now is on Modern Day Debate, it's set up so that we're streaming to Twitch right now too. And that's without me having to do anything. I just, once I start streaming on OBS, it just starts going and it just sends it to both YouTube and Twitch. And I don't have to do anything. I just in Restream, I had to make sure I had both of them selected. That's it. So, but want to say thank you guys for all of your support. And you guys, it's a lot of fun. So thank you guys for all your support. You guys make this a blast. We're excited about the future, you guys. We probably will hit 125,000 or 126,000 subscribers tomorrow. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button as we are excited about the future. We're five, or no joke, we're 5 subscribers away from 126,000. So if you're one of the five right now, you might actually see it when you refresh the page, say 126,000 if you haven't already subscribed. So we appreciate that. That's exciting though. We have big goals for the future. We're excited about the future. We're doing big things. So thank you guys. I love you guys. You guys make this fun. Um, you guys have been just super supportive, and I appreciate that. And so we're excited that, yeah, it's crazy that modern day debate has grown this much. And we're excited about the future as we are going to keep on pushing forward and improving things and figuring things out, learning and making things better. So thanks, guys. I love you guys. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable. And we will see you guys next time. We have a debate this Friday. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you there. It's whether or not the fossil record supports evolution. You don't want to miss it, folks. If you enjoyed this topic, I have a feeling you're going to enjoy that one as well. So do be sure that you check it out. Ooh, check it out. You guys, have you noticed that during like on screen, as people have been signing up for Manifold and voting for the Matt Dillahunty versus Andrew Wilson debate, uh, it's been updating like on the actual like live stream video footage where now it says 84% chance. So it's been changing as people have been creating accounts. So that's really cool. But yeah, we're so close. Let me see. Are we any closer to anybody? Let's see. Want to say thank you guys for your support. I'm gonna get some rest. I'm pretty tired, but I love you guys. Thanks for everything. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable, and we'll